is cleaning out my fridge so scary? I've got stuff in there I will never, ever eat. Why is it still in my fridge?
Murphy's Law states that if you buy a new rug, your pets will immediately puke on it the second you roll it out.
Yep. I bought one of those washable rugs for this exact reason. Turns out, though, washing a 9x12 rug is not very convenient after all. Who has a washing machine that large?
The laundromat. I cleaned out my car and found one of those nasty meat sticks I must have bought on a whim at a gas station. And then I wondered, who am I?
A meat stick eater who forgets about it. Have such a good day. Hello world, welcome to Have Such a Good Day, the show that would like nothing more than for you to do just that.
We're coming in hot, y'all. Episode 150.
Yeah.
Hello.
At least where
welcome.
I am. Welcome, everybody. Is it? Are you coming in hot?
I'm coming in real hot today, Sarah. I'm just going to warn you.
I'm coming in physically very hot because it's really hot where I am today. I'm nice and cool in my studio, but outside it's too hot for your old pal Sarah.
Well, come on north because I think it's a cool 55 today. But I am coming in hot from my day took a turn, and I will explain it later in the show. But we're here today to ease you into your week, to
That's
make
right.
a smooth transition from your weekend, to help you manifest all the good things that you deserve. Welcome to Have Such a Good Day. The show that is like cheap therapy.
It's technically free, unless you're a patron, in which case, thank you.
Hella cheap therapy.
Yeah, hella cheap. For as little as $1 a month, you can have this show. I mentioned that my fridge was scary, Heather, and I won't go into all the details. I just have cleaning out a fridge, if you were going to take everything out of it and scrub it down, I mean, that's not the most fun thing to do.
No.
But it has to be done every once in a while.
Sure.
This is more of just there's something that was a leftover maybe from a delivery and it's wrapped up and I'm not really looking at it, but it's in the back and I know it's got to go. It's not edible anymore and I don't totally remember what it is.
But you don't really want to open it and look.
Well, yeah, because it's going to be traumatic. This morning there was it was kind of I don't know, almost like wax paper that you would get under a burger or something.
Yeah.
And something was wrapped in it and I was like, whatever this is, I'm kind of curious though. And it was these old celery sticks, not something that you should
rubbery
eat.
celery.
I'm I don't totally remember what this was.
Well, it's actually
but they
funny.
really shouldn't be here anymore.
It's like we have a show theme going on. It's like weird food that you find. Because I found like I mentioned in the cold open, I found that one of those meat sticks, because I cleaned out my car for the first time in, I swear, 6 months. I have a friend down the street who just got a commercial grade vacuum cleaner. And I mean, seriously, I've gone on so many road trips with this car. I mean, it really was disgusting, the inside.
I'm pretty sure mine would be worse.
Well, you do have a dog.
Yeah, the dog is a big part of it. And I also
You also hide food in there, weird leftovers.
Well, I like to have a beverage, in my center console. Just, you get thirsty, whatever. And sometimes there'll be a little spillage and you kind of go
yeah.
And then it sort of dries, but it looks gross.
Totally.
And, it's just
in fact, full disclosure, I still haven't detailed my car. So I did vacuum it, but I need to go in there with some Clorox wipes and wipe down the insides of the doors because as you all know, I have Invisalign and anyone out there who has had Invisalign will relate to this. And because, I'm not at home all the time eating and then I get to brush my teeth. It's so convenient. There's a bathroom. I'm often on the road. I'm driving and I have to kind of deal with my trays as I'm driving, or maybe I pull over and deal with them. But in any event, there have been many times where I've actually been driving and I've had to rinse my mouth with mouthwash. And then I sort of don't have something to spit it into.
Then you just spit it into your lap.
Well, no, I spit it out the window and then it splatters everywhere. We're
I
all
love
friends
that.
here. We're all
Yeah,
friends here.
sure. I mean, it's better than like barfing out the window or something.
No, no,
I mean,
but
at least
then
it's
there's like,
Listerine.
oh, exactly, exactly. It's not really that dirty. That's why I just let it sit there for like months on end. But like, it's still there. Like, there's just these sputters, and
Oh yeah,
even my boyfriend's
yeah,
like, "What is that?" Oh, it's just mouthwash. No big deal.
yeah. Don't judge me. I was busy.
It's so funny because when you vacuuming your car, it's like really hard to get into the like the really thin cracks and crevices. And this is where I found that meat, by the way, that I probably was hungry on the road, and I just like impulsively bought this like thing that looked savory and delicious at the time because I was probably starving, and there was
Right.
no restaurants around or whatever. But it's like jammed in the middle. Like it took me a second to realize. I'm like, where did this come from? I would never buy something like this. It's just like,
I also suffer from I have a pretty big trunk in my car, and when my car is several years old at this point, but for a while I was on a roll where it's like it's nice and clean back there. You want to put a suitcase, plenty of room, and then over time it's like, well, I'll take these shoes to the cobbler one day,
Totally.
so I'll put them in the trunk for
Dry
like a while.
cleaning.
They've
Yeah.
been in there for years.
Oh,
It's
oh my
like,
God.
when am I going to?
Totally.
I don't even know where the cobbler is. Like I've obviously abandoned this idea.
I've actually done the same thing where I want to get this jacket like tailored to me. It's a really cool kind of like it's one of my dad's jackets, and it's sort of like a wool like kind of blazer, and I think it would be really cute. It would be like boyfriend style, kind of bigger. And I know a lady in town, and I had it in my car for like 2 months. And every day that I was in town, I was like, go see that lady and get that jacket out of your trunk and do it. So I didn't do it so many times. I finally just took it out of my car and put it back on the shelf where
Right.
it's
You just
gathering
it's like
dust.
wave the
I
white
gave up.
flag. It's just I can't
not
do
happening.
this. I also have a bad habit of, I'll stock up on toilet paper. My mom also, she shops at Costco, so she always has like, do you want toilet paper? Do you want paper towels? Do you want
Such a mom
papers?"
thing.
Such a mom thing. And so sometimes if I'm at her house, I put everything in the trunk, and then I'm like, there's room in the trunk. But then I like run out of toilet paper at my house, and I'm like, man, I left it in the
I gotta
trunk.
get the car.
Yeah, it's
I
like,
do the
dude,
same
Sarah,
thing.
you have cupboards. Why don't you just be an adult?
Hey, Sarah,
Hey,
I
what?
wanted to mention, you'd be proud of me. I actually spent some of the weekend listening to a bunch of podcasts to kind of bone up on the crypto thing. 'Cause like I'm into like finances. I'm really into like the investment stuff, and I'm trying to learn. And I'm like, I need to wrap my head around this a little bit. And what I learned was that even for people who are like kind of the supposed experts, it's hard for them to grasp, and it's confusing for them too. And I find it very interesting that this came about. Like this is something someone came up with, but it's confusing for them too.
Yeah,
It's
the friends of
bizarre.
mine, I have friends who are much more heavy into crypto than I am. In fact, I've all but abandoned all of it because I'm just like, well, I lost a bunch of money and that sucked. And I'll just like figure out how to like get back into my wallet that I'm locked out of now. But we're not even talking about enough money for me to stress too much. But
Sure.
there have been so many times where I'll ask a question and be like, why is it like this? And everyone goes, because nobody, like, this is like the Wild West. Like,
Yeah,
there just
exactly.
isn't a good way to do a lot of this stuff yet. So if you want to tinker around, fine, but you just have to like deal with it being a shit show.
Being wacky. Yeah. I mean, I was listening to like top journalists on the subject, and they admitted that it's like really hard to keep up with. It's hard to wrap your head around it. Cause it's so Wild West. It's so out there. It's so, what's the word, sort of, I don't know, like esoteric or something. Anyway, I just thought it was kind of interesting very interesting. And so I'm even more intrigued now that it's as confusing for people who are way smarter than me on the subject. I'm like more intrigued.
Right. Well, it's good to know that it's not like everyone's like, well, if you're smart, you do this, and then you can just print a bunch of money.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. I mean,
No.
sure, you can. Some people have done very well, and you can, kind of have good timing or just get lucky. But in many cases, it's like, you're just on the ride. You got on the ride. Try to have some fun.
That's true. I wanted to mention that, we were talking about rugs. We were talking about, garbage food in our refrigerator and in our cars. But I do want to bring up the fact that I did get a new rug for my hallway, and I'm really happy about it. And it's funny how much a new rug with a different design and different colors just completely changes a room. I mean,
Oh
just
yeah.
completely. And so I roll it out. No joke. I got two separate animals that decided to puke on it. I'm like, okay, I have a lot of square footage and I have a lot of rugs. You decide to puke, both of you decide to puke on the new rug because, like,
Right.
what
It's
is
almost
up
like
with
they were
that?
like saving it up.
Oh, 100%. Like, seriously, animals are weird like that. Like, they just know. They know that it's like, there's something about the newness and the smell that I think is comforting too. That, like, it's just like all the other rugs are just old hat. It's like, oh, I've puked on that so many times. Let's try
Yeah.
this new one.
There's a little bit of like, yeah, like staking a claim too.
Yeah,
You know, when I get
totally.
something new, not necessarily that my animals are puking on things, thank goodness, but yeah, they're like sort of obsessed with the new thing. You know, you
Yes.
have all these other things that you liked very much an hour ago, but now the new thing is where everybody has to be.
Everybody. It's like they just like, they all group together on the new thing. And oh, God, these little motherfuckers. So, how's your week been, Sarah?
Well, speaking of
The truth is spilling
animals,
out of my mouth today, Sarah, so beware.
that's okay. You know, this is safe space. The last week was actually quite the roller coaster when it comes to animals. My cat Ralphie, who has only been in our home for about 6 months. I adopted him right around Thanksgiving of last year, and so I guess yeah, about 6 months. And he has always been he's an older cat. They told me he was 7, so let's say 7. But I think they kind of estimate when you're in a shelter.
Yeah.
And from day one when he came home, he's a very sweet cat, very talkative, which can be very annoying depending on the time of night. But
Yeah.
he's a sweet cat, but he always seemed a little off. He kind of has, I sort of suspect like maybe a little arthritis in the back legs. He's not much of a jumper, but there was also a little bit of, and I'll spare you the details, but a little bit of like litter box action that didn't make a lot of sense to me. In and out a little bit too much. He would kind of growl and seem like he was in pain. I had taken him to the ER a couple times, kind of right away, where I'm like, what's wrong with my cat? And they couldn't really figure out much. They were like, well, he might just be constipated, or maybe he's just some cats just have kind of gastro irritation. And I thought, well, okay, I mean, if that's what it is, as long as he's not like in a lot of pain and unhappy. But last week, and he kind of goes through these cycles, which my older cat Lucy, who passed away last year, she was quite a bit older. She was 14, but she had these episodes too where she'd be fine for months. And then she'd like have a bad few days and I'd go, oh, here we go. So last week, Ralphie had a couple of days. And I had a house guest, and it's just the whole thing was just like, oh my God, like I'm going to take him in, there's something wrong here. Like, whatever it is, we need to figure out some other, course of action. And so took him in, and they said, yeah, we've got an issue, and we need to, you don't have to. You could just take him back home, but he's just going to continue to be sick because he's got a bunch of stuff in his colon that isn't going to move without surgery. It's just not going to. It's like there's no.
How do they test that? Like, how do they know? It's like an
They
X-ray
do
or
X-rays.
something? Okay.
Yeah. They can see what's in there, and ultrasounds as well.
Yeah.
And so I was, and they kind of they kept him because they were sort of trying to flush things best they could to like give me a plan B. And it's expensive to have your cat stay overnight even if you don't have surgery.
Sure.
So here I am, like a couple days go by, and I'm stressed, I'm worried about the financial part of it. I'm worried about him being sort of scared and lonely,
Of course.
and, in a little cage in the vet, in the back room kind of thing. And, they eventually said, we really think the surgery is going to be super helpful. This is something that we see in cats a lot. They recover quite well and often just like never have these problems again. But the sticker price on the surgery was, I mean, I just don't have that kind of money laying around. This is
Yeah.
something that like I have to put on a credit card. That's just the
Sure.
way my life is.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people would, be exactly the same way. And that requires some pretty difficult decisions. And, I'm a sucker, especially when it comes to, my pets. I feel
course.
like, I took this on. I also adopted an older animal that I didn't know very well. And I don't even know if somebody would have said, well, here's what you're going to have to do if you adopt this particular cat. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done, but that's not the case. That's something that I found out later. And I feel like within reason, I mean, I'm not going to go bankrupt, but within reason, this is the deal. I signed up for this.
Yep.
So he had his surgery and it went well. And everybody, at the vets, who I know very well now because I was in there with my other cat quite a bit last year. They, were just like, oh, it's going to change everything. It's going to be great. And he's back home now. He's got a big old incision on his tummy.
Ooh,
and he looks so weird because it's like he's a black cat, but his skin is light, right? So it's like he's kind of has that like bluish white tum-tum,
Yeah, totally.
and it'll grow back. It's fine. And he's been doing really well. In fact, he woke me up at 5 this morning, loudly demanding breakfast, which leads me to believe he's feeling a lot better because he's
that's
back
so
to his annoying little
great.
gremlin self.
Wait,
yeah,
I thought
he
he was a
was-
Muppet.
He's
He's
a
part
Muppet.
Muppet, part Gremlin.
He's a Muppet on a tuppet. Well, he's a gremlin when he acts like that.
Oh, that's true.
He's, he's a monster. He
Yeah.
really is. I mean,
Not
he's
to be
a cute
confused with the
monster.
Mogwai.
No,
The Mogwai's
that's
the sweet
different.
part. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's amazing how, when it's an unopportune time for Ralphie to do his, very loud Muppet meows, I have dark thoughts where I'm just like, well, how can I shut this cat up? I'll do anything, and then I wake up and I have some coffee and I'm like, you're cute. I'm so glad you're home. So
Oh,
it was a roller coaster. And,
Yeah.
this is only really a few days ago that this all kind of went down. So, I mean, we're not out of the woods yet, but
Yeah.
I feel like I've come to some sort of zen feeling about the whole thing.
Yeah.
The money still, I'm gonna have to be paying for this for a while. But I'm glad I did it. I
Yeah.
feel like it's the right thing, and
Sure.
that's just and we'll move forward.
Yeah, and I think you're not a sucker. I mean, you said earlier you're a sucker. I think
Oh, I'm a sucker.
you are, but you are a very okay. Sure, we're both suckers for animals because I would do the same exact thing. I'd probably put my house up for I don't know to sell if I could save a bunch of animals. But yes, okay, we're suckers. But you did the right thing, and the fact that he's bouncing back this quickly. And yeah, he's a family member, and
Yeah. And it's I know that I mean, I want to say this like as delicately as possible. I know that there are situations in people's lives where you have to make a decision for your animal that you don't want to make.
Yeah.
Whether it's giving them away or, something dramatic happens in your life for whatever reason you can't take care of them in their current state. And, if that were, and I thought about this, like,
Sure.
okay, that is one of my options. Like what, not to give them
Yeah.
away, but, maybe to put them down or, I didn't know how bad this was going to get.
Sure.
And it sucks. It totally sucks. And I know that I'm certainly not judging anybody who, would have made a different decision than me. But yeah, that's why I say I'm a sucker because I'm like, I'll just do it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like you have to
Give
kind
me
of
your
live with this-
suffering, little kitty. Make me suffer instead. I will take on your suffering.
Totally. Yeah, I know. I would be the same exact way. Well, I'm glad that you got through it. It definitely sounded like a roller coaster, and you've been through this so many times before, so it's not like
Yeah.
this is like a new thing, but he's your little bud, and I'm happy he's home and he's on the mend.
Yeah.
Gosh, you could
Yeah,
write a book
he's-
about this stuff, Sarah.
He's got the. I know exactly. I'm like, how many times am I going to go to an ER vet within 365 days? Because I'm really racking up the time.
Well, this
But,
might be like your legacy,
Well, sure, I'll take it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what was she like? Oh, she spent a lot of money at the vet.
Yeah.
That's Sarah for you.
She saved animals. Yep.
Yeah.
She opened new credit cards just to pay for her her
Yep.
vet bills.
Yep, why not? F my credit. Let's save a cat.
I think it's really sweet. Seriously, I definitely I relate. I relate. So today, Sarah, has been a very bizarre one.
Yeah,
I was
you
coming in
mentioned what
hot.
happened.
I was coming in hot because Mondays are normally pretty routine for me. Like I woke up early. I woke up at like 5:30 this morning. Did my morning routine and just meander over to my computer and start working. And I kind of, it's a day I can catch up on paperwork, catch up on email. I write the show scripts, think about what I'm going to talk about. But I decided I don't normally go out and do errands on Mondays just because, we record and then I edit the show and I want to get it, I want to post it, before it gets too late and I got to make dinner and all these things. But today I decided to quickly run to the store. I had to get a few items and I needed to go to the post office. And I thought I do have a bunch of other errands, but I could maybe push them till tomorrow. But I was planning on hitting a few spots. So I go to the store. I kind of am like, do I go down to CVS? Do I do all these other things right now? And I'm like, nah. So as I was going along, I was like, I kept making different turns. I'm like, I was going to do these things. I'm like, nah, I'm going to head home. So I'm like heading home and just all these split decisions that I like made, to not do this and to not do that and to not stop and get lunch there and whatever. I'm rolling home and I took the long way, which I normally don't do. So there's two ways to get to my house. And one of them is just sort of the more, I guess, more efficient way. It sort of cuts over, gets you to the freeway quicker. And then there's the longer way is like prettier. It's like, but it's more curvy and it takes you across this really narrow bridge. And I like taking that way a lot. But if I'm kind of in a hurry, I normally will take the other one. But I went that way because I had a piece of mail for my stepmom who lives up the road. And I just like, I'll just quickly put it in her mailbox. And again, so these 4 other errands, I just kind of bypassed them. And I came back and I take this long way and I'm cruising by her house and I pull up and literally within seconds of pulling up to her house, I see her fall to the ground.
Oh.
And it was the weirdest experience because, we don't live on like a busy street, we're like in the country and, there's not a lot of people around,
Right.
and I don't usually take that route. Like I don't go out on Mondays usually. And I just,
Yeah, she wasn't expecting you.
no, not at all. Not at all. And it was like this miraculous moment where, she bailed hard. She may have broke her wrist. We don't know yet. But she was, laying on the ground. It was just this and she lives alone and she's fragile and all these things. And it was just this weird sort of turn of events, and I ended up spending some time at her house, helping her, getting her, she was out there gardening and just getting all of her tools inside. And I, helped her ice her arm and, kind of got her water and just kind of, made sure she was okay before I left. But I was kind of sweating because I was kind of rushing to get home because I had a lot to do.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure she was okay. And it was just one of those like unexpected things that sort of threw my, kind of threw a wrench into my day. And I would have, of course I would have, helped her no matter what. Like I would have canceled whatever I needed to cancel, but
Sure.
still don't really know, how she's doing. I'll check in with her after the show, but it was really miraculous that I drove by when I did. She said, she literally within milliseconds, she fell and I pulled up at her house. It was wild. And she needed help getting up. Like it was,
Right. Yeah.
it was just so crazy. And anyway, so it just, it really goes to show you, from one day to the next, you just really don't know what can happen when you leave the house. So sometimes I just don't want to leave the house. And I know that you can relate to this, Sarah. It's
Yeah.
it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention taking different ways home, which I can do that where I live as well. I have I have a variety of grocery stores that I could go to, but I almost always go to my favorite one.
Yeah.
And there's a way there and there's a way back, and that's the fastest way. It's perfectly fine. It's actually
Sure.
really pretty, but I can also sort of meander and kind of go like not super out of my way, but just like, I don't know, change of pace, right?
Sure.
If I'm not in too much of a hurry. And I actually did that yesterday. It's been really hot here. And I was kind of out doing stuff in the middle of the day, but my AC in the car was working and I was comfy. And I was like, I'm just going to, I don't know, waste a little gas and do a little bit more driving. Nothing bad happened as a result of it. So, thankfully, I didn't visit anybody who broke their wrist. You're a poor stepmom. But yeah, it's like, why did I choose those things? I don't know. Sometimes you just sort of follow your nose.
I really followed my nose. Like I kept, I didn't explain it all that well, but like I made like 4 different decisions on the road, like to just not do that and not do that and to take that route. And yeah, I mean, if I would have gone the other way, I would have never known, would have never seen her, would have never known. I mean, maybe she would have called me, but
yeah, it just would have been different.
Yeah, exactly. So we're helping people, Sarah. We're helping animals. We're helping humans.
Yeah. We might as well just open up a practice. You know, you need some help, need some money. You feel like you're gonna fall, Heather and I gotcha.
I'm telling you though, having a couple bags of frozen vegetables is a very good little life hack.
Yes, yeah. I am from I don't know. I guess it was like my surgery last year. I've got these little. I don't even know. They're almost like little satchels, that you put in the freezer, and they're reusable. If you need to ice something, they're actually kind of handy. They're sort of meant to be tucked into clothes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But when you really need good ice, frozen peas, bag of frozen peas.
Definitely.
It's because it'll shock you into.
Well, it's also like when do you fill your ice trays? I find that to be kind of an easy task, but I don't do it. And so every once in a while, every blue moon, I will be like, ooh, I'm going to make a Oaxacan Negroni or like some cocktail. And then I'm like, I don't have any ice. And all my ice, trays are empty. And I'm like, good.
Yeah. I'm not a huge ice.
I'm not either.
I'm fine with. It's not like I'm like an ice hater. I know some people don't actually like ice because it like hurts their mouth or it's something with the
I'm not a big ice
nerves.
person. Yeah.
I'm fine with it, but I'm like you. If someone doesn't fill up my ice trays, it's probably going to be a while before I even notice. It's like I'm just not needing ice that regularly.
Folks, this may have been the first time ever on the show that we've ever talked about ice. I just would like to make a note of that because we've talked about pretty much every other subject, every other noun on the planet. It's been 150 episodes.
Yeah, it's like we're now into
no pun
ice
intended.
trays. What's next? It could be anything. It could be anything except all the things we've already talked about. Well, I don't know if we've ever talked about fonts on the show.
Yeah, maybe
before. Not sure that we have. Typeface
I don't
stuff.
think so.
Right? Fonts.
Yeah.
I
love typefaces.
I'm a lover of fonts, some more than others. I often, well, not often, but this has happened more than once where like I need to doctor something up in Photoshop and I need a certain font, for a project or whatever. And it's like my project is a little scattered in various like inboxes and I'm like, where did I put I downloaded it. I know I unzipped that folder.
Yeah.
Where is it? And you can't if you don't have the font, you can't just like make it up.
No.
You need that, that file. And so anyway, I think about fonts maybe more than the average person, but this was something that we covered on Daily Tech News Show, other show that I co-host today. And it's that Instagram is changing the font of, it's like that, you think of that Instagram, it's like that cursive-y thing.
Yeah.
Now I didn't notice this, but I guess a few years ago they had updated it slightly. And this is different than like the app logo, the little square that you might see on your smartphone, because those get updated too, and sometimes that throws me off where I'm like, where is my program even? Oh yeah, they changed Slack did that to me some time ago where I was like, I hate this. Now I'm used to it. I don't even remember what it looked like before. But the fonts themselves are things, it's sort of like marketing, branding material, but it's stuff that will trickle down and you're going to eventually see it. And the company hopes that you like it better than what it was before. Maybe it looks cleaner, that sort of thing. And the Instagram font, the like official Instagram font, is like wildly different than it was before. Now, this is not going to ruin my life. In fact, I use Instagram less than I did. I used to use Instagram a lot. I
Yeah.
posted a lot. I still post on my dog's account quite often, with his
Yeah.
permission, of course.
Uh-huh.
This is all, something that I'm just doing to help him. But I don't know. I'm still lurking somewhat.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
days will
You're a
go by
lurker.
where I'm like, you know what? Whatever's in there, I don't really need to look at my timeline. I don't know. I'm doing other things. So so yeah, it's like I don't know if it will affect anybody, and maybe I've just been thinking about it because I like thinking about fonts sometimes. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm a
it's
font
kind of a
person
weird
too.
one, Heather. When you see it at first, you're gonna be like,
Well,
wow.
wait, so I want to see it. So I guess I could Google it, right? Because I'm on Instagram now and I see the old one.
Yeah.
It's quite
So
different.
well, yeah, and this is something that like they just announced, so I'm not sure how much you're gonna see a
Okay.
difference, within the next week. This might just sort of be a branding initiative,
Yeah.
that will permeate in other areas. But a friend of mine he's a graphic designer, and he's like the font king. He has, if you need a font in the world, you go to him. He has lots of opinions about fonts. He's also really good at what he does. So, I always kind of like things that are a little bit more artistic than I think I'm good at. I'd often go to him for stuff like this. And I asked him this morning, what do you think of this font? And he was like, I don't know. I mean, it's weird, but it's a lot of companies do this. This is pretty standard, especially, if you think Instagram is owned by Meta, which also owns Facebook.
Yeah.
Huge company. You probably
Yep.
have like, you know, hundreds of people who weighed in on,
Oh,
this
sure.
sort of thing, if not more.
Yeah.
Apparently they worked with I don't know, a design firm, which
Yes,
name is
of
escaping
course.
me right now, which I had never heard of, but of course font people would know it. Some big wig, graphic
Sure.
place, and so I looked at their website and I'm like, wow, this is so fun. It's like just like because it's more of like it's the design company works with lots of companies, so
Sure.
they show you their portfolio of work. Here's who
Yep.
we've worked with. Here's what we did, and I'm like, they're so good at this.
Yeah. No, totally.
I could have spent all day looking at those fonts.
Oh yeah, I spend a lot of time on Dafont. It's DAFONT. It's
I
just a
did not know
website.
that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Dafont. You'll love it. Go to dafont.com. It's great.
Okay.
And
Wow.
you can
All right.
you can basically plug in a word because I'm a font nerd too. I really love fonts. Like I like look at typography a lot, and I'll save, like I'll screen grab like fonts that I like, but in this Dafont you can put a word, like put Sarah or whatever, and you can see tons of and really cool wacky stuff too, and you can just see how your name would look in all these different fonts. It's very cool. It's
Oh, that's
it's
neat.
definitely something you can like waste a lot of time doing, but I think part of it too is being a producer as we are. I mean, I feel like every job I've ever had in production, I had to deal with fonts. Like I either, yeah, like, our TV roles were, as producers, were pretty creative, and we had to come up with, sort of a graphics package and, style and a tone and a font and all that stuff. And I remember being in meetings with some of those kind of, those design firms that, help design logos and fonts for companies like what you were just referring to. And it is such a hardcore thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it is like they'll spend a year, coming up with a name for a company. And, because sometimes I'm like, why would they name the company that? I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but
It's also there was some. I know the people still like Helvetica a lot, but there was a point, I feel like, I don't know, maybe about a decade ago, where it was like, they like made documentaries about Helvetica,
Yeah.
and here's why Helvetica is like so universally loved and works in so many different situations. But then you get people who are like, Helvetica, like they didn't even try. And I love the like different tiers of caring about fonts, because
Oh my
I
God,
often
totally.
will look at something and I'm like, it's fine, you can read it.
Yeah.
It looks, I don't know, it's fine. It's Arial.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
totally.
then, but there's so many other options depending on what you're going for.
Well, yeah. So the Instagram one, it's like that cursive-y thing right now. So is the new font kind of that same kind of a little bit of an unconventional font, or is it more like a sans serif, like a Helvetica or Arial kind of style?
Um,
Or
well,
is
it's
it hard
called
to say?
Instagram Sans. I mean, they
Oh,
named it that themselves.
okay.
And they, it's kind of, if you think about the style of it, it's like Instagram calls them squircles, which is like a combination of sort of squarish font and circle font, and they're all together, which makes it, I guess, at least in my mind, supposed to be sort of whimsical
Oh,
and
I can see it.
fun
I
with little
Googled it.
tails.
I like
And
it.
that's,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah. And
Interesting.
it is what it is.
Yeah, it
But
is. It's very kind of cute and whimsical is a good word. Yeah,
yeah,
totally. Wow.
and
Okay, cool.
yeah, it's a whole, font package. So I don't know how much I care about Instagram changing its font or not changing its font. That's not really the point of this. It just got me thinking about, like,
Oh, yeah.
what fonts do I like, and what fonts do I like and I don't even realize why I like them. They're
Oh,
just
just
like
to
are
admit
comforting.
to everybody that you like Comic Sans. That's totally your favorite.
I still get emails from people, and I'm like, really? Written,
know.
written
Or
in Comic Sans.
okay. Speaking of fonts, I have such a bone to pick. Just in the last like couple days or over the weekend, I have an insurance lady. I know that she's not going to listen to the show, but she's sort of an insurance broker, and she's got one of those signatures that is like,
Yep.
well, first of all of her emails are in italics. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, everything. Like the body of the email, everything is in italics. And then in her signature, it's like the wackiest. You can't read it, and then it has like some of those quotes at the bottom, like enjoy the day, for tomorrow is blah 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 something.
Is not
And
promised.
yeah, it's
Live,
fascinating.
laugh, love.
Yeah, live, laugh, love. Live, laugh, love. Yeah, it's very fascinating. I'm like, who is this? Like, it really says a lot about who you are. And
I don't know what it says, really.
just like
It's
really
like I wouldn't
interesting.
have any opinion on her based on this, except that she went into her settings once and was like, you know what? I like it.
That's probably what happened. You know what? I like it.
Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah.
probably she just has never thought about it since.
Oh, I know what it is. It's embrace life! Exclamation point. Be positive and generous and love each other more! Exclamation point. I appreciate your business. If you like my service, tell a friend. I love referrals. And it's all, those two lines are in different, they're both italics, different fonts and different colors.
Nice.
Yeah.
So looping this back,
Very
almost to, like,
subjective.
yes, right. Some people are probably like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah,
those
for
are
sure.
good little life notes. Thank you for the
Absolutely.
reminder. I tend to, when somebody says something like that, which is obviously supposed to be extremely positive, right?
Yeah, of
It's supposed to be
course.
positive and uplifting, but I almost consider it a demand on me.
Totally.
Like, you better enjoy life, Sarah. Do better.
Or else.
You're like, okay, what are you, my mom?
Got it. Yeah. And it's like, and if you're emailing with them a lot, you're getting it over and over and over again. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
because it's in their signature. So it's like every single time. So yeah, this is that would be a fascinating documentary.
The fonts that people pick and why.
Yeah, and why, and like what it says about you, and I'm sure that there's a lot of psychology behind it. But Sarah, I'm going to
Yes.
switch gears a little bit. Have you
All right.
ever enjoyed a tide pool?
Yes. Yeah, when I was a kid, during kind of like, I don't know, field trip sciencey stuff.
Yeah, totally.
There are some tide pools not too far away from, I don't know, where I went to grammar school. And so, we'd take a bus out there and the kids
Yeah.
would, look at sea anemones and things like that.
Totally. Yeah, the last sort of, they call them king tides, I guess, where it's like, yeah, there's just like low, fairly low tides and a lot of, there's a lot of stuff to see. I saw some in Santa Cruz about a year ago. There was like a really big king tide. It was cool. It was cool. But there was a situation up here a few days ago. A friend told me about it. I would have never known because I'm just stuck in my kind of head doing, in the house doing stuff where we're just, me and my boyfriend are just working and we're just doing stuff and we're not very involved with what's going on out, in the community or whatever. I guess I don't really read a lot of local news. Although I did read the other day, they're shooting like 3 really big Hollywood movies up here, which is pretty cool. I don't know what they are, but when I find out, I'll let you know. But a friend of mine told me about this negative tide. And I was like, it was like minus tide, you know, like with the actual used the symbol minus. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I got what that was, like that it's like a very, very, very low tide. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't think I've ever heard or experienced, you know, oh, like a negative tide, like a very specific negative tide. So anyway, she tells me about this. You got to get up early, you know, go down here. It's only happening for the day. It's apparently pretty rare. And so we were like, yeah, dude, yeah, let's do that. Let's check it out. So we go down the road to this beach. It's by a place called Camel Rock, and it's a really beautiful kind of cove-like beach. We go down there, and I was blown away. It was the most, I mean, I don't even know what I expected. I mean, I sort of expected just seeing like a tide pool, you know, a few tide pools, some anemones, whatever. But this was quite miraculous. It was, you know, it reminded me a lot of, you know, what really struck me was that I've seen so much of this type of thing when I'm snorkeling in Hawaii or Mexico
Mm-hmm.
or on
Mm-hmm.
vacation, you know, where you're like, yeah, like that makes sense. Like you're in the water, you're underwater. I've never scuba dived, and I probably never will, because I'm kind of afraid. But I will snorkel, and I'll get into it. And I've snorkeled with turtles. You know, I've been to the Bahamas. I've seen a lot of colorful fish and floral, and just like been there, done that. And my point is that I've seen all these neat things in the ocean on vacation in my lifetime, but this was something else because the tides were so low that all the areas that were exposed are usually deep underwater. And so it
Mm-hmm.
was such a trip. It was like kind of like, God, I mean, almost fantastical. Like I felt like I was in a Pixar movie because everything was so bright. And there were like in all the nooks and crannies that are normally like completely underwater are open. You can like walk into these caves, and there was like purple and orange starfish everywhere. There were like neon green anemones, crabs. I mean, honestly, like I really felt like I was scuba diving, like I was underwater, but I was walking around. It was quite extraordinary. And I realized that, yeah, I was talking to a friend who also lives in California, but more kind of in a populated area. And, you know, she takes her kids to the beach a lot. And she's like, yeah, you know, you live in an area that's so untainted by human, you know, there's no boat, there's not a lot of boats. I mean, there's fishing boats, but it's not like a recreational area other than
Mm-hmm.
surfers. And it really struck me, you know, like how, you know, I hope I don't brag about too much about where I live, you know, because it really truthfully is a huge trade-off in a lot of ways. But on days like this, I'm like, wow, I mean, this place can be, it is a hunk of earth that is really untainted by human traffic. And I really feel like there's a lot of benefits to that, you know, because I don't think any of these, if you pulled back the ocean like in a, you know, a busy beach in Santa Monica, I don't think you're going to see those starfish. You're not going to see that level of ocean life because there's
Mm-hmm.
just too much activity, you know? And anyway, it was just, it sort of made me think of like these trade-offs that we have in life, and how, you know, just I get these wonderful benefits of, you know, these experiences where I would not normally see something like that in the place that I actually live.
Yeah.
You know, is it worth it? I don't know, maybe, but you
It
know,
sounds like it was worth it that day.
oh,
It
it was
sounds
amazing.
really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I come across that stuff. I can't think of anything as cool as what you just described, but I probably just forgetting something. But yeah, I know this is sort of a dumb comparison, but when I lived in Los Angeles, for a time I lived
Mm-hmm.
way out on the west side. We're at the
Mm-hmm.
water, on the water.
Mm-hmm.
And Heather, you've been to my house a million times. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I've lived on the ocean before, but it's a very different experience. You
Yeah.
know, that was in San Francisco, and the beach is kind of strange there.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
sort
it
of
is kind of strange.
kind of windswept, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of people out there, but it's just it's much less of a destination than it would be in, you know, Venice, California.
Sure.
And I got really used to looking at the beach. I mean, I would watch the beach constantly. In fact, I sat in a certain place in my kitchen, even though I had lots of other places to sit. because I liked just looking up and seeing the water every 5 seconds. It was very, very soothing to me. And that's a very different kind of beach. You know, it's flat.
Yeah.
The waves aren't big.
Totally.
I mean, sometimes they're bigger than, you know, in the winter, maybe you're going to get some swells. But, you know, there are a lot of people on the beach, so you get more garbage.
Yeah, totally.
And there's
It's
just
a destination.
it's more of a machine, you know.
Yeah.
You got lifeguards, you know, they're patrolling in, you know, big trucks, you know, up and down the beach and whatever. It's I still really enjoyed it, but yeah, that's like something that I get when I go to the beach where I am, which is in Sonoma County, is like, I mean, huge cliffs and you know, insane waves that are like borderline scary. And you know, I love watching that too, and I don't live right on the beach anymore, so I have to take a little bit of a drive. It's not that far. It's a nice drive, but you know, I have to make an effort. But it's when I get there, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's foggy. You know, I was hoping it would be a little bit nicer, but then I'm always glad I went. Always.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, yeah, very different. I mean, it's hard to really compare, you know, Malibu to like NorCal. You know, it's like very, very different. But yeah, I did read the other day though that like I don't know what the article was. It was something about happiness, and it was saying like in, you know, top 1, 2, or 3 spots was like living on the water. You know, just like will make you happy. It's
I think there are many places that I would enjoy living in the world. In fact, we talked about this on an episode where I was like, Miami, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Now, Miami, obviously surrounded by water.
Yeah.
But in general, for me, even if something was the most beautiful place I've ever been, if it's like far enough from a body of water that's large enough to be like, I don't know, to impress or be a mode of transport or something. I think it makes me a little like, I need to be near water.
I feel the same way, and it might be the growing up in California thing. And I
Oh,
think,
of course.
I think that experience with the negative tides and the starfish and everything it kind of gave me hope, because, you know, you hear all these news stories about how the coral reefs and just like all these endangered species and how, you know, the oceans are just so polluted. And I don't know, it was so pristine.
Sea levels rising, climate
Yeah.
change. It's a nightmare.
It was like the opposite. It was like the polar opposite. So I'm like, okay, well, this is one tiny speck on the map of the world. There's got to be other places like this, and obviously there are. But it gave me a little glint of hope.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. I am glad to hear that. I hope for more starfish adventures for you.
Thanks, Lanes.
I don't know if before we move on, my dog Otis, and this all depends on the tide, right? If it's high tide, we kind of, I mean, there's still plenty of beach, but it's a very different experience than when there's low tide. When there's low tide, especially at the beach that I like to go to the most, it's also just, it's close to me, but it's like super beautiful. When it's low tide, Otis the dog knows where the starfish hang out. And so he goes out and he grabs one, pulls it off the rock, and brings it to me.
Oh, no.
And that's not cool, right? He thinks he's being like cool, like, look what I got, you know? I got this thing. And so I yell at him and he drops it, and that's the end of it. And I'm like, sorry, starfish, you know, hope you make it back to the rock, but you probably won't. So yeah, it's a bad habit. I'm not totally sure what to do about that.
Yeah,
unless
so
we just
hopefully-
when they go at high tide.
I mean, do you think he kills it with I mean, it's in his mouth, right?
No, they're not dead, but it's still just, you don't.
It's a little jarring.
Well, that was the starfish's like happy home, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's like not. Let's just don't do that. He thinks it's a game. I don't know. I guess I could. I don't know.
Well, too bad he doesn't speak
We'll visit a
English.
behavior specialist about my
Yes.
dog's fascination with starfish.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Well, listen, folks, we mentioned that we've got patrons earlier in the show. We'll mention it again. Patreon.com/havesuchagoodday is where you can find out more about directly supporting the show if you are so inclined. If you enjoy it, consider handing us, a small amount per month. And that way you get an ad-free feed, because you might hear ads otherwise. We do offer the show for free. We will continue to do that, but we like to give people who want to be patrons, first of all, our huge thanks and some perks. And Heather and I have been talking lately about, we know that some of you are in our Discord. We get more Discorders all the time. We really love hanging out with all of you in there. We could probably get a little bit creative about other perks just to, keep it spicy around here. So we'll keep you all posted on where we are with that sooner than later.
Yeah, Sarah and I need to get together, put our, meld our heads together and sort of think of some things. But obviously, let us know if there's something that you would love to hear us talk about, because it runs the gamut. We talked about ice trays today. I mean, is there something out there that we have not covered? If so, please let us know. Hi@havesuchagoodday.com.
Yeah. The weirder the better. Throw us for a loop. That's
or even
an
the
order.
most mundane. I mean, yeah. So we really
cotton
appreciate
balls. Let's talk about them.
Q-tips. we so appreciate you guys listening and supporting us, and please consider rating and reviewing us on iTunes, because even if you don't listen to us on iTunes, it really helps others find the show.
It does.
Because people
discovery.
read a 5-star review and go, oh, I want to check that out, and it just kind of pops it up and makes the show a little bit more visible. So thank you in advance.
And we also have a new patron. We always like to thank our new patrons. Ragnold is our newest patron. And I believe I know you, unless you just happen to have the same name as somebody else. But I've seen you around the podcast. So
awesome,
thanks
a
for
new friend.
New friend. Thanks for joining this here show. But speaking of this here show, Heather, which is episode 150. I mean, pat ourselves on the back. Look at us.
Seriously.
We're halfway to 300.
We have so much celebrating to do, Sarah.
We do. But for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We like to give you more or less an hour. And we thank you for your time if you made it this far in the show. And we can't wait to do it all again next week.
Indeed. And I will remain Sarah. I will remain Heather until then.
Heather, you are such a
smoking weed.
Too much weed, Heather. You think you're me now. It's really gotten out of control. You need to rein it in. My gosh. You crazy girl. But yes, Heather will remain Heather for sure. Unless she changes her name. That's a legal thing she could do. But I'll stay Sarah, the most common name in the world, like everybody else.
Maybe that's why I think I'm Sarah.
You're right, yeah. You're just because everybody's named Sarah.
Exactly.
Until next time, y'all, have a wonderful week and try to have such a good day until we meet again.
Bye-bye.